My in-laws overstayed their welcome for months, and it nearly ruined my marriage. I felt like a stranger in my own home. My name is Alex, I'm 32, and I never imagined I'd be in this situation. My wife, Sarah, who's 30, and I have been married for 5 years, and we have a 3-year-old son, Ethan. Our story started back in 2015 when we met at a local coffee shop near the university where Sarah was studying abroad. I was working as a barista to support myself through grad school, and Sarah would come in every morning for her cappuccino. We bonded over our shared love for travel and different cultures. I was captivated by her stories of growing up in Sao Paulo, and she was equally intrigued by my Japanese-American background. After a whirlwind romance, Sarah decided to stay in the US after finishing her degree. We got married in 2019 in a beautiful ceremony that blended both of our cultures. It was a small affair with just our closest friends and my family in attendance. Sarah's family couldn't make it due to visa issues, which was hard for her, but we made sure to incorporate Brazilian traditions to honor her roots. Our relationship has always been strong. We rarely argue and have always supported each other's dreams and ambitions. When Sarah expressed her desire to start her own small business importing Brazilian artisanal products, I encouraged her every step of the way. Likewise, she's been my rock as I've climbed the corporate ladder at my tech company. Everything seemed perfect when we welcomed Ethan into our lives 3 years ago. The pregnancy was tough on Sarah, especially being so far from her family. My mom, Yuki, stayed with us for a month after Ethan was born to help out, which Sarah greatly appreciated. We've always tried to expose Ethan to both of our cultures, teaching him bits of Portuguese and Japanese alongside English. The current situation began about 6 months ago when Sarah's parents, Eduardo, 58, and Mariana, 55, came to visit us. Their visit was supposed to be 2 months, their first since Ethan was born. They had only met him through video calls, and Sarah was thrilled for them to finally spend time with their grandson in person. I was initially hesitant about having them stay for so long. My own parents usually visit for a week at most, and I value my personal space. However, I knew how much it meant to Sarah, especially since she'd been feeling homesick lately. Her new business was taking off, and she was busier than ever. I thought having her parents around might help ease some of her stress. The first few weeks were fine. Eduardo and Mariana were clearly overjoyed to be with Ethan, showering him with affection and little gifts from Brazil. They were helpful around the house, with Mariana often cooking delicious Brazilian meals for us. I even started to enjoy coming home to the smell of feijoada or moquito wafting through the house. But as time went on, cultural differences and the language barrier started causing problems. They don't speak much English, and my Portuguese is basic at best. I've been meaning to improve it for years but never found the time between work and family responsibilities. This led to a lot of misunderstandings and frustration on both sides. One major issue was their lack of respect for our privacy. In their culture, family boundaries are much more fluid than what I'm used to. They would often enter our bedroom without knocking, which made me incredibly uncomfortable. Once, I was changing after a shower, and Eduardo walked in without warning. It was mortifying for both of us, but when I tried to explain through Sarah that they needed to knock, he seemed confused by why it was such a big deal. They also had a habit of giving unsolicited advice on everything from how we should raise Ethan to how I should manage my career. When Ethan threw a tantrum in a restaurant, Mariana criticized our parenting style in rapid Portuguese, leaving me feeling judged and frustrated. Eduardo constantly questioned why I worked such long hours, suggesting I wasn't spending enough time with family. When I tried to address these issues with Sarah, she would brush them off, saying that's just how they are and that they mean well. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself becoming more and more stressed. I started working longer hours to avoid coming home. When I was home, I felt like a stranger in my own house. Eduardo and Mariana took over the living room, watching loud Brazilian TV shows all day. They rearranged our kitchen without asking, and any attempt to put things back resulted in them doing it again the next day. The situation was affecting my relationship with Ethan, too. He was spending most of his time with his grandparents, and they were speaking to him exclusively in Portuguese. While I want him to be bilingual, I started to feel left out of their conversations. One day, Ethan called me Poppy instead of Daddy, and while I knew I should have been happy about his language development, it just made me feel more alienated. The breaking point came when their 2-month stay turned into 4 months. Sarah kept making excuses for why they needed to stay longer. First, it was because her mom wasn't feeling well, then it was because they wanted to be here for Ethan's birthday. I felt like my opinions and feelings didn't matter. I tried to talk to Sarah about it, but she got defensive. She accused me of not understanding the importance of family and Brazilian culture and reminded me of how she had left her entire support system behind to build a life with me in the US. I felt guilty but also frustrated. Hadn't I always supported her? Hadn't I encouraged her to stay in touch with her family and culture? Now, Sarah wants to invite them back for a 6-month stay. She says it's important for Ethan to spend time with his grandparents and learn about his Brazilian heritage. I understand this, but I can't imagine going through enough.